Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
He picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast, Chiefs post-game show. Patrick Allen here with you. So it's not a victory party because the Chiefs didn't score any points, but it kind of is a victory party. It's a celebration of the season that the Chiefs have had, and that's why we're all sitting here after. I mean, God bless you if you watch that whole thing. I had to because it's work. It is what it is, right? This is a celebration of the Chiefs doing what they needed to do to get to the point where they could roll into Denver on the world's most pointless flight to stand in the cold for a little bit and turn around and go back to Kansas City, because that's all that this was. We're going to break down. Look, not going to be a long show today. There's not much of a game to break down here, but we are going to talk a little bit about how we got here and what's next for the Kansas City Chiefs and how the rest of the landscape shook out across the NFL today. So if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button, and I'm just going to get this out of the way. Listen, there was a big victory for the Chiefs, in my opinion, and I will tell you right after this. Listen. Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and 2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players' stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. No touchdowns for the Chiefs today. You guys know I love their vulture protection. Designated running back scores a touchdown. If the backup comes in, vultures it, they're going to rescue your entry. It's pretty cool. So just download the app today, and then you can help out the podcast by using our code Arrowhead Addict. That's all one word to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's code Arrowhead Addict, all one word to get up to $1,000 bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Conservative play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE New York, or text HOPE New York to 467-369. All right. You got that out of the way. So shout out to the super chat for Slothy. I wondered what you were going to do. Can't do the score. Men is $2, so 0 to 38. You could have done 38 to 0, I guess, but you don't want to donate the Broncos score. I get it if the Chiefs didn't win. All right, so look, the only thing that was sort of, a question kind of heading into this game was like, how hard are the Chiefs going to try to win this game? We knew that nobody was going to be playing in terms of primary starters. They had an injury list, long as you'd ever seen, and all the key guys were going to be inactive, right? So I thought, I'll be honest with you, I thought maybe Andy Reid, he was talking up Carson Wentz so much, kind of heading into this week and how his confidence in him and that he thought he should be a starter in the league. I thought, maybe Andy he'll have a few things in there for Carson because, he wants to show him off a little bit. He likes him, said he liked him coming out, wants to give him a chance. Yeah, no, that just wasn't the case. The Chiefs. So if you're upset, and I was in some group chats with people, other Chiefs fans, and some folks were like, "Oh man, like this makes me feel bad about our depth. It's hard to watch." Now, I'll cop to that, right? I don't care what the situation is. I'm never going to enjoy sitting in front of my TV watching the Chiefs lose to the Broncos 38-0. I don't care what's going on. I don't care who's playing. They're wearing that red uniform with the arrowheads on it. It's going to feel kind of gross, right? But in some ways, it's funny. The Broncos were wearing those throwback uniforms, and the Chiefs were playing like it reminded me of the way that the Chiefs played, pre-Andy Reid, when they never had a quarterback and everything was terrible. It was like, frankly, it was even worse than that. But it was just some nice perspective of like, we watch all these games. We've watched this whole season, all of us together now. And the Chiefs were 15-1. And so many of the games they played, in our estimation, poorly. And we were mad and frustrated because the standard is so high. Boy, it really puts things into perspective. What playing poorly, like what bad football is when you watch a game like that. The Chiefs had absolutely no interest in showing anything to the Denver Broncos, anything to the rest of the league. And you know what? I don't blame them. Why do it? Why even roll out one blitz? Because you're like, well, like if you're going to do something in this situation, right? If you want to beat Denver, play your starters. You want to knock your division rival out of the playoffs. That's meaningful to you if you're the Chiefs. Put Patrick Mahomes out there, Travis Kelce, the whole gang, go out there and do that. If a coach is going to make that call, I don't know if I agree with it, but I could at least respect it. Andy Reid in this situation was like, no, I'm not playing anybody, and I'm not calling any of the good shit. None of it. We're going out there with the game plan of run left, run right, run up the middle. That was pretty much what they had. You look at the box score in this one. The Chiefs Carson Wentz was 10 of 17 for 98 yards. He got sacked 4 times. They had a guy playing linebacker that they signed 3 days ago. So Bo Nix goes out there and, lights it up, 26 of 29, 321 yards and 4 touchdowns. He ran 7 times for 47 yards. Broncos ran for 158 yards in this one. The Chiefs had, 98 yards from Wentz. And then they put Chris Oladokin, who they called up from the practice squad in late. All he did was register a sack. He might have fumbled too. But you know what I mean? And we're talking about, Josh Uche, who they don't play. And these are guys that have stats in this game on defense for the Chiefs. Cam Jones led the team with 12 tackles. Josh Uche, Blake Lynch. You had some regulars in there. You can't sit everybody. Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, Leo Chenal. But then you got, Marlon Tuipulotu. FAU played a ton. Keith Taylor was out there. That's it, right? And the Chiefs did the right thing here. You can make the argument, I don't like letting the Broncos in the playoffs. But I just don't think the Chiefs care. Like they don't care. They're not afraid of the Broncos. They're not afraid of anybody. They went through the hardest road to the Super Bowl any team by DVOA ever has had to travel last year on the road. Do you think that they care whether or not the Bengals or the Dolphins or the Broncos are the 7 seed? No, they don't care. They're going for a 3-peat. They're not they've been in these situations. They're not afraid of anybody. Slothy comes in with the super chat and says, "This is actually my favorite game of the entire season, even though we lost 38-0. That was Andy giving 2 middle fingers to the rest of the league. We laid down so hard like a puppy for a belly rub." You're not kidding, man. So the victory for the Chiefs in this one, in my opinion, was that they eliminated the Cincinnati Bengals, one of their rivals, from the playoffs by losing to the Denver Broncos, one of their other rivals. So, and look, that's smart. I mean, I'm not saying the Chiefs didn't play the game the way they played the game because they were worried about the Bengals. But as a fan who wants to see the Chiefs get to the AFC Championship game and get to the Super Bowl, I don't want to play the Bengals. Offense is really explosive. Defense isn't any good. But the offense is explosive, could cause you problems. I think I'd much rather, hopefully this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass, but I think I'd much rather play the Broncos or the Chargers or the Steelers, or the Texans than the Bengals with a quarterback that has actually taken a team to a Super Bowl before. All due respect to Russell Wilson, he ain't that dude anymore. So yeah, I thought it was, and actually it's sort of funny because if the Chiefs had won this game, the Dolphins are, well, actually, the Jets are so for the Bengals to get in, they needed to win last night against Steelers, which they did. And then they needed the Chiefs to beat the Broncos, and they needed the Dolphins to beat the Jets. Right now, the Jets are leading Miami 25-20 with 5 minutes to go, and New York's got the ball. So Miami could pull that one out, in which case what would have happened had the Chiefs beaten the Broncos? The Dolphins would have been the 7th seed. But the Dolphins are eliminated, so they're just playing for pride right now. And, if the Jets win, the Bengals would have gotten in had the Chiefs defeated the Broncos. So, the Bengals are the Chiefs kind of dealt them 2 blows this season, right? They beat them early in the year and kind of continued handed them their 0-2 start. And then they lost the next week to the Commanders. So, for the Bengals, I mean, what can you say? Like, they just weren't good enough this year. They had won when they got by December 9th, the Cincinnati Bengals had 4 wins. So that's great. They finished on a hot streak. They finished with 5 wins in a row. Who'd they play? At Dallas, at Tennessee, who got the number 1 overall pick, versus the Browns, who got the number 2 overall pick in the draft. They beat this Broncos team in overtime, and then they squeaked by the Steelers last night. The Steelers had the ball, a chance to beat them, and Russell Wilson executed one of the worst 2-minute drills I've ever seen. So, this Bengals team, as explosive as their offense is, they're about what their record says they are. They're in the last 2 weeks trying to make the playoffs. They were in dogfights with the Broncos and the Steelers, and those are probably 2 of the worst teams in the playoffs. But it is what it is. So the Bengals didn't get in. They're done. I guess Jamar Chase, when he said early in the season that the Bengals were the team to beat in the AFC, he meant they are the team you beat in the AFC because most everybody beat them. But I mean, you lose to New England, you don't go to the playoffs. That's just the way it is. So Bengals are out. So that's kind of funny if you just like the Bengals, which I do. So how's it all going to play out now? So Chiefs obviously are the 1 seed. They finished the season 15-2. And pardon me. Your 2 seed is going to be Buffalo, followed by the Baltimore Ravens at the 3 seed. The Texans were locked in at that 4. They finished at 10-7. The Chargers, is that game final? Let me just pull up the scoreboard here. So this is an interesting development that's relative to the Chiefs. Yeah, so the Chargers took care of business and they beat the Raiders. Because the Steelers lost last night, they have now slipped in the playoff standings from the 5 seed to the 6 seed. Why does this matter for Kansas City? Well, it matters because the Chiefs are going to play the lowest remaining seed. So your first round matchups are going to be Buffalo hosting Denver, Baltimore hosting Pittsburgh, and Houston hosting the Chargers. Had Pittsburgh won last night, they would have been the 5 seed, and they would have gone to play the Texans. Now, I think I would have rather played the Texans or the Steelers, 2 teams the Chiefs just beat pretty easily in the divisional round, which is what would have happened outside of Buffalo or Baltimore getting upset, right? So if you believe that Buffalo is going to take care of business against the Broncos, and that now that Baltimore is going to be playing Pittsburgh for the 3rd time, that's always weird when you play a divisional team again for the 3rd time. But Pittsburgh just looks terrible right now. They lost 4 in a row. They've backed into the playoffs. I don't see any scenario in which they beat the Ravens. The Ravens are playing great right now. So you could pretty much figure it's chalk. And so the Chiefs, if that's the case, are going to play the winner of that 4-5 game. Houston hosting the Chargers. Now, to Houston's credit, and they've not been playing well in recent weeks, but to Houston's credit, they went out there today, and I believe they played most of their starters against the Titans. They beat them 23-14. Again, the Titans are in Tanksville, right? But CJ Stroud went out there for a little. Okay, he played for a little bit. He was 6 of 6 for 50 yards and a touchdown. Damian Pierce in this game, 19 for 176. Yeah, you think the Chiefs laid down. The Titans wanted that number 1 pick. So that's the way it's going to go. So there's a really good chance, in my opinion, like if I had to put money on it, I would say that the Chargers beat the Texans. And the Chiefs will be hosting the Chargers for the 3rd time in the divisional round. I don't love that. Chargers finished 11-6. You know, they know the Chiefs well. They always play them tough. Harbaugh's a great coach. Their defense is stout. But the Chiefs did just beat them on December 8th, 19-17. They lost to Tampa, another playoff team, 40-17. 2 weeks before they played the Chiefs, they lost to Baltimore 30-23. So this is a team, though, they don't really get blown out too much. So, and they win the games they're supposed to win. I don't think that they have the offensive firepower to hang with Kansas City in the playoffs this year. I don't. They're a good team. They have some good players on defense. Herbert's playing well. But I just don't think they'll be able to keep up with Kansas City, whose offense is really turning the corner. So it's going to be likely Houston or the Chargers coming to Arrowhead for the divisional round. The only way that would be different, and it's very unlikely, is if you get some sort of crazy upset, right? That would mean that if the Steelers upset the Ravens, then it's now that Pittsburgh's the 6th seed, Pittsburgh would be coming to Kansas City. And if the Broncos upset the Bills, the Broncos will come to Kansas City. That's a tricky game for the Bills, though. I'd be careful with old Sean Payton. He might have a little something for him. It's the playoffs. Like, all these teams are good. And if you don't play your A game, somebody could sneak up on you and shock you. That goes for the Chiefs, the Bills, everybody. We'll see how it plays out. But the Chiefs are sitting pretty, and they've got – I'll tell you what, man. They've got their scouting done, right? They've played every single one of these teams in the playoffs. Every single one of them. They beat all of them except for Buffalo. And that was a close game. And they were on the road. And everybody was hurt. So that's the road for the Chiefs. We got a super chat from Steven Ock. Does Joe Burrow have his sorry in advance t-shirt? Great show, Patrick. My guy, Pittsburgh Steve, one of our longtime members. Yeah, man. Pittsburgh Steve's the shit. Appreciate you, man. If you don't know what the sorry in advance t-shirt is, when the whole Burrowhead game happened and the Bengals were coming to Kansas City to Arrowhead, Joe Burrow walked in there with a t-shirt on that said sorry in advance. And that's when I soured on Joe Burrow. I always kind of liked Joe Burrow. Played for the Buckeyes for a little bit. He's a fun player. He's good. I just think he bought into his own hype a little bit. And I really didn't like that shirt. And, of course, they lost. So, the Bengals have just been in a free fall since the Burrowhead comments. And that's sort of what, like, when I talk about my gripes about the Bengals, like the Burrowhead, like the sorry in advance shirt and the Burrowhead stuff. These guys, man, for a team that didn't win anything, they didn't win the Super Bowl when they got there. It's sort of like, boy, you guys are really, but like if Joe Burrow bought into his own hype, that whole team bought into their own hype. And I wonder if it's a Zach Taylor thing, man. I wonder if it's coaching. I don't see Andy Reid letting stuff, like, he likes to let players be themselves, but I don't see that kind of thing flying with Andy Reid. He keeps his teams mentally prepared, and I'm just not sure it's a good look for the Bengals. Now they're not making the playoffs again. So that's the road. So, in this one, there was one injury. I think it was Shamari Connor. I'm going to look it up right now. Somebody got banged up. Let's see here. I can't. Oh, yeah. Chamari Connor was ruled out with a shoulder injury. So let me see if there's anything updated on him. I didn't hear about anybody else getting injured in this game, which is great. That was the goal. You don't want to lose Chamari, but somebody had to play, and this is what happened. So they ruled him out with a shoulder. It's just really hard to know. It doesn't look like there's any updates on this right now. It's just really difficult to know in a game like this because anybody gets even the slightest ding in a game like this, they're just going to yank him out and just like, you're not going back and forget it if they're able to do that. So we'll find out. Andy will probably take the podium here in a little bit. We'll find out if there's an update on Chamari Connor. But the good news is the Chiefs don't have to play football for a really long time. So they get the bye week, they're off, and many of their guys are going to be rested. I think Tooney and Trey Smith and Creed came out for like 4 snaps or something, and then they got him the hell out of there. They probably just dressed him because, you have to put somebody out there. And so they needed some guys just in case there were injuries to actually field a team. Let's go to the chat and let me know who you guys think the Chiefs' first round or second round, divisional round opponent will be before we get out of here. I'd just love to know what everybody thinks. I see Tom says Chargers will beat the Texans. I think so, Tom. I think Chargers are coming to Arrowhead, and I'm all right with that. It's not they would have been I would have rather played the Steelers out of anyone else. So I was rooting hard for them last night against the Bengals, just because I think the Steelers are in a free fall, and I think it's over for them. They're going to get smacked by whoever they play in the first round, and it's going to be Baltimore. But yeah, Tom thinks it's going to be the Chargers in the divisional. Makes sense. Everybody's saying Chargers. Allen Chargers. Jalen says Chargers. Terry says Chargers. Interesting. Houston defense attorney says it's going to be Denver. Buffalo chokes trying to look ahead. Joshua in the chat says, wait till the Chargers play the Chiefs in this year's playoffs. Josh, they will potentially, because they're playing Houston, and we all think they're going to beat Houston. And if that happens and the Bills and the Ravens win, then the Chargers would be the lowest seed remaining, and they would come to Kansas City. Phantom thinks he's calling the upset, Denver. I've seen a few people saying that they think Denver could upset the Bills. I'll say this. Buffalo's defense down the stretch struggled a little bit. And Bo Nix is playing well. I just think the Chiefs kind of sabotaged. Honestly, I think the Chiefs kind of sabotaged Denver a little bit in this one, because it's like Bo Nix is, gone through the rookie season. He's steadily improved. And then he gets to this game. We got to win to get in the playoffs. And it's like, that was not a football game. Like Bo Nix, the Broncos, they were all feeling themselves. Guys are getting bonuses. Nix is running around. Everybody's wide open. He's feeling himself. He's playing on easy mode. He's never played an NFL playoff game before. That's shocking for everybody. So he's going to go in there to Buffalo, of all places, in a week and have to deal with that. I don't know, man. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, it's like if you had to, if you had to like sprint a mile as fast as you can, the difference between like warming up and sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, like that's basically what Denver just did today. They were sitting on the couch eating Cheetos. I think I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Nix gets out there in that playoff game in Denver, and he's like, "Oh, wait, what happened to easy mode against Kansas City last week?" I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not worried about that for the Chiefs. And I'm not really worried about for Buffalo. Like, these teams have been through the playoffs, these big games. They know what to expect. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes isn't going to go in there in the division. Like, everybody's been like, oh, it's such a long layoff for the Chiefs. Dude, these guys have played – the Kansas City Chiefs have played in the last few years, played almost an entire extra season of football games because they go so deep into the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes has never not made it to overtime of the AFC Championship game, except for when he's won the AFC Championship game without needing to go to overtime. So, like, they're just going to forget how to play football. And they're not going to be surprised by the intensity. They're going to know exactly what to expect. If there's any rust on the part of the Chiefs, it might be 1 or 2 plays. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, let's go. So, but for a guy like Bo Nix and Denver hasn't been in the playoffs in a long time. They were talking about it's been like 8 years since they've been in the playoffs. So some of these guys have never been in a playoff game. Look, eventually you settle in, and I think an upset is possible. I just don't see it happening. Like, Buffalo's playing really well. I think they're going to be in the AFC Championship game. We had a super chat from Vlad. Says, Patrick, you're the best, I think is what you were saying. Appreciate you, man. All right, guys. So I ain't got nothing else for you. Like, one more thing. Harrison Butker missed a field goal. That's the only thing I'm a little bit like weirded out about, because since he's come back from injury, he just hasn't had that many opportunities to kick field goals. So actually, let me pull it up. And I'm sure he's fine. The dude's one of the most clutch kickers of all time. He also has not forgotten how to kick. He finished 21 of 24 on the year. And let's go to the game log. So since he got back, he came back against Cleveland on the 15th. And he was 0 for 1 in that game. That was where his leg dipped down and it was wonky. But he was 3 for 3 on extra points. Then against Houston, he went 2 for 2. He kicked a one between 40 and 49 and one between 20 and 29, 3 for 3 on extra points. Then he was 1 for 1 against Pittsburgh. That was a 32-yarder. And then 2 of 3 on extra points. Remember, he missed that extra point. And then he missed this one in Denver. So he's missed 3 kicks since he came back. 1 extra point, 2 field goals. 1 was his first kick back. There was an operation issue. I'm not too worried. But if I was like a little bit weirded out by anything, it would be that. But again, he's got plenty of time to practice and get warmed up for the playoffs. And I just don't see a situation where the Chiefs lose in the first round. So I think they're going to be in the AFC Championship game, and they're going to be playing Buffalo or the Ravens. And then we'll find out who's going to the Super Bowl again. I'm going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to be there, whether the Chiefs are or not. So I would appreciate it if they would make it. Terry says, who's better, Bengals or Chargers? It's the Chargers, man. It's the Chargers. The Bengals defense is terrible, and the Chargers won more games, like 2 more games than the Bengals did. And I'll say this too. I'm seeing all the talk about the MVP, and people are like, well, it's between Josh Allen and it's between Lamar. I will say this. Joe Burrow has the best stats out of all of those guys. Like, by a lot, if you stack them up. He's going for a lot more yards. So if Joe Burrow, the Bengals didn't make the playoffs. If Joe Burrow is in the conversation for the MVP, then Patrick Mahomes should be in the conversation for the MVP. Now, I know Patrick didn't put up crazy numbers, except for the regular season record of 15-1 while he was the starter. So it's either just stats, right? And if it's just stats, then it shouldn't be Lamar or Josh Allen. It should be Joe Burrow. If wins don't matter, it should be Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes should be in the conversation, right? If we're just doing stats. So it's weird, man. It's a weird award. Patrick Mahomes leads his team to a 15-1 record. There's not even it's because his numbers aren't good. Well, how did they get to be 15-1? Right? It doesn't make any sense. So if you're taking wins into account, then it's and I think I misspoke. If it's just stats, it's Burrow, no contest. And Patrick Mahomes shouldn't be in the conversation. But if Burrow doesn't win it, why isn't Patrick Mahomes in there with Lamar and Josh Allen? His team won more games than all of them, right? It doesn't really make sense how they do it. But at this point, I think the only MVP Patrick Mahomes really cares about is Super Bowl MVP. So let's hope he gets another one. All right, everybody, we are going to get out of here. Appreciate you. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict community, check out the link in the description. We were watching the game, commiserating over the terrible play in the Discord, the private Discord we have. We just wrapped up the Fantasy Football League. It's a lot of fun being a member. We always want to meet new Chiefs fans, and it's great. We're all scattered throughout the country, and it's a great way to connect with like-minded Chiefs fans. And now's a great time to join because the playoffs are going to be off the hook, and we have all kinds of great content. Like tons of content during the season, but things pick up a notch around here come playoff time. We start getting more interviews, particularly if the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl. We're there every year, and we get all kinds of really cool interviews. Sometimes we slip exclusive interviews or early release interviews to our members. Sometimes we even let them ask questions, all kinds of cool stuff. So check out the link in the description. It's a great way to support this Chiefs content. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. Big game between the Vikings and the Lions. One of those two teams could meet the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Crazy situation where the winner gets the 1 seed, and because they're in the same division, the loser drops to the 5. And has to go on the road. That's rough, man. Those teams won a lot of games. All right, everybody. Appreciate your support. Thank you to producer Richard for getting us up and running. Thank you to Price Carter and Adam Best and everybody who was on the shows today on this sort of meaningless Week 18 for the Kansas City Chiefs. It is a victory party as far as the season goes. So crack one open, sit back, relax, enjoy the wild card games. We'll have our regular slate of shows for you next week to get you ready for 2 weeks of prep for the Chiefs divisional round game. And until then, as always, go Chiefs.